data based. Okay. So classical economists such as Adam Smith and David Ricardo laid the groundwork for understanding the role of government in fostering industrial development. So these were the two people, the famous classical economists. Who are they? Adam Smith and David Ricardo. So they have laid down the groundwork and the basic understanding of government in fostering industrial development through policies that promote free market and specialization. Now, developmental economics, particularly prevalent in developing countries, advocate for proactive government intervention to correct market failures, promote industrialization, and achieve socio-economic objectives such as poverty reduction and equitable growth. Also, the relevance of industrial policies lie in their ability to address structural challenges, foster innovation, promote industrial diversification, and ensure inclusive growth. So these are the things which help in sourcing and can be held accountable for relevance of industrial policies. What are they? These are structural challenges, or foster innovation, promote industrial diversification, and ensure inclusive growth. That is growth for everybody. Now, we'll talk about the next topic, that is implicate, implicit industrial policy resolution during British Raj. So from where it has been beginning, basically isko bolenge history of industrial policy. Give me a moment, please. Let me take the attendance. Yeah, so we were at implicit industrial policy during British Raj. Well, during the British colonial rule in India, industrial policies were implicitly designed to serve the interest of the colonial power, right? So the Britishers, 1 minute. Yeah, sorry for the interruption. We were at British Raj. During the British colonial rule in India, industrial policies were designed to serve the interest of colonial power. The British pursued policies that prioritize the extraction of raw material from India to fuel their own industrial revolution. So basically, industrial revolution was going on in Britain. So to boost their industrialization, raw material has been exported from India. So basically, the export was happening over here, but it was not for the good of India. It was basically the basic aim of export of raw material from India was to serve the Britain. So that was the basic thing. Even India was getting benefits, but what was happening, all the raw materials or all the resources which was very valuable at that time, even now also, all those things were getting exported to the Britain. So this was happening. Even India was getting benefit out of it, but the loss was more. while simultaneously hindering the development of ingenious industries through tariffs, trade restrictions were there, also discriminatory practices were also there. So this implicit industrial policy perpetuated economic dependencies, inhibited industrialization, and contributed to socio-economic disparities. So what was the basic of British Raj? Tell me, what was the basic of British Raj? क्या होता था? Just now I have explained क्या क्या हो रहा था at the time of British Raj industry policy में. What was the basic of that? Yes, no, anything? Anyways. Now, we'll move on to the first industrial policy resolution of 1948. Now, the next, first was the British Raj. Now, we will talk about the first policy resolution of 1948. So, the first industrial policy resolution of independent India was announced in the year 1948, laid the foundation for the country's industrial development. It emphasized the importance of mixed economy with a balanced role for both public as well as private sector. The resolution outlined the government's commitment to promoting industrialization, fostering entrepreneurship, and ensuring social welfare. Also, key features of policy included the promotion of key industries. Uh, in these industry, the basic industry was the agriculture. Right? Next, investment in infrastructure and the establishment of regulatory mechanism to facilitate industrial growth. So that was the story of the first industrial policy resolution of 1948. You can get detailed information in your booklet about this resolution. I'm just discussing briefly. Now we'll talk about the second industrial policy resolution of 1956. Well, the second industrial policy resolution of 1956 marked a significant shift towards state intervention and control in strategic industries. The policy characterized industry into three groups. So these groups were known as Schedule A, Schedule B, and Schedule C, based on the strategic importance and degree of government control. Schedule A industries were reserved for public sector, while Schedule B industries were open to both public and private sector. Schedule C industries were reserved for small scale enterprises. So this policy led to the establishment of public sector enterprises in key sectors like steel, heavy machinery, and infrastructure, with the aim of achieving self-resilience and balanced regional development. Right? So that was the story of the second industrial policy resolution of 1956. Next thing is changes in industrial policy post 1956 period. Well, subsequent to the 1956 policy, India witnessed several changes in the industrial policies driven by evolving economic conditions, technological advancement, and global trends. The 1991 economic reforms marked a significant turning point with the introduction of what? LPG, that is liberalization, privatization, and globalization measures. These reforms aimed to dismantle the license Raj, liberalize trade and investment, remove regulatory barriers, and promote greater competition and efficiency in the industrial sector. The reforms also sought to attract foreign investment, foster technological innovation, and integrate the Indian economy into global market. So these were the changes in industrial policy which were came into force post 1956 period, right? Next is industrial regulation, and we'll talk about the important acts. Well, industrial regulation in India is governed by a comprehensive framework of laws and regulation aimed at ensuring fair competition, safeguarding labor rights, protecting the environment, and promoting industrial safety and welfare. Key act include the Industries Development and Regulation Act 1951, which empowers the government to regulate the establishment, expansion, and operation of industries. The Disputes Act 1947, which provide mechanism for resolution of dispute between employers and the employees. The Factories Act 1947, sorry, yeah, the Factories Act came in 1948, sorry, which sets a standard for workplace safety, health, and welfare. And in the Environment Protection Act 1986, which mandates environmental clearance of industrial project and regulate pollution control measures. So these are the important eight acts under industrial regulation. What are these? Let me repeat once more. So these are the Industries Development and Regulation Act 1951, then the Industrial Dispute Act 1947, then the Factories Act 1948, and the Environment Protection Act 1986. Okay. Now, the last thing is an assessment of the impact of industrial policies and acts. Well, the impact of industrial policies and acts in India has been multifaceted. On the positive side, these policies have contributed to the establishment of a diverse industrial base, promoted technological innovation, generated employment opportunities, and facilitated economic growth and development. They have also played a crucial role in addressing social welfare concerns such as poverty alleviation and regional development. However, industrial policies have also faced criticism for its bureaucratic inefficiencies, rent-seeking behavior, corruption, and lack of flexibility. Additionally, excessive government intervention and protectionism have sometimes hindered competitiveness, innovation, and efficiency of the industrial sector. So, all in all, this was an assessment for the impact of industrial policies and act. So, with this, we are done with our Unit 12. If any doubt is there, you can ask me. I'm giving you a minute's time. After that, we will start Unit 13. Please go through your booklet and check the topics under Unit 12. If any doubt is there, please ask. We will start the next topic in a minute. Well, no doubts for Unit 12. Shall we move on to Unit 13? Okay. So in Unit 13, we'll be studying about the new industrial policy 1991. the crisis of 1991 and the condition under which the new industrial policy was announced, exchange rate and trade liberalization policy, salient features of new industrial policy of July 1991 and subsequent changes for it. Also, the assessment of the policy and the impact. Well, for every policy in the last unit also there was an assessment. So kindly prepare the assessment properly for the previous unit and for this unit as well. Now, talking about the crisis of 1991 and the condition under which new industrial policy was announced. Well, in the year 1991, uh, marked a significant turning point in India's economic history, characterized by a severe balance of payment crisis. We will discuss balance of payment. It is there in the last unit. There we will discuss it more. Okay. So there was this balance of payment crisis were there. So this crisis were precipitated by a combination of factors, including external debt accumulation, high fiscal deficit, foreign exchange reserves, and trade deficits were there. So in response to this crisis, India was compelled to seek assistance from the IMF, that is International Monetary Fund. These crises were going on. So India seek assistance from IMF and implemented structural adjustment measures. The condition under which the new industrial policy was announced were marked by a sense of urgency and the recognition of the need for far-reaching economic reforms to address the underlying structural weaknesses and restore microeconomic stability. Okay. Yeah. Uh, the main crisis was the main crisis was balance of payments. Basically, the balance of payments is a comprehensive record of a country's economic transaction with the rest of the world over a period. Okay, so in this we have to assess two accounts of the country, or you can say India. These accounts are the current account and the capital account under payment. Sorry, balance of payment. Okay, we'll be studying this in unit 18 about it. So that is the basic. That is, it is a comprehensive record of the country's economic transaction with the rest of the world over a period. So it was in very bad shape in 1991. Initially, it was in very bad shape. What was the reason of it being in the bad shape? The main factors were external debt accumulation was there, then high fiscal deficit was there, then foreign exchange reserves ka problem tha, also trade deficit were there. So these were the things. Because of that, balance of payment crisis was going on, and which led to the formation of new industrial policy in urgency in the year 1991. Okay. Now we'll talk about, I hope it is clear, the crisis of 1991 and the condition in the which new policy was announced, right? If not, please ask me, I'll explain again. Then there was exchange rate and trade liberalization policy. Well, one of the key component of new industrial policy was liberalization of exchange rate regime and trade policies. 1 minute. So previously, India has maintained a fixed exchange rate with multiple exchange rates, which has become unsustainable in the face of mounting external imbalances. Okay, so the new policy ushered into a shift towards a more flexible exchange rate regime, allowing the rupee to be determined by market forces. So additionally, trade liberalization measures were introduced to dismantle trade barriers, reduce import tariffs, and promote export-oriented growth. So these reforms aimed to enhance external competitiveness, also to attract foreign investment and integrate India into the global economy. So that was the concept of exchange rate and trade liberalization policy. Next, we'll discuss about salient features of new industrial policy and the changes. Well, the new industrial policy of July 1991 introduced a series of sweeping reforms aimed at dismantling the decade-old system of industrial licensing, then reducing bureaucratic controls, and promoting private sector participation in key industries. So that was the basic of new industrial policy. Also, we'll talk about salient features of the policy. Well, the very first one was abolition of industrial licensing. The policy abolished the requirement of industrial licensing for majority of industries, except for a small list of industries related to security and environmental concern. So other than that, बाकी पूरे इंडस्ट्री से इंडस्ट्रियल लाइसेंसिंग का abolition यानी कि वो खत्म हो गए. Then this move aimed to promote competition, foster entrepreneurship, and encourage investment in the industrial sector. So that was abolition of industrial licensing. Second, it was foreign investment liberalization. Now let's see what it is. Well, the policy liberalized foreign investment norms, allowing for greater foreign participation in the Indian economy. Foreign direct investment, FDI, was permitted in a wide range of sectors subject to concerned conditions and limits. This measure aimed to attract much needed capital inflow, technology transfer, and managerial expertise. So that was foreign investment liberalization. Now, the third feature is encouragement of small scale industries. Well, the policy accorded special privileges and incentives to small scale industries to promote their growth and competitiveness. These measures included reservation of certain products for exclusive production by the small scale sector, access to institutional credit, and exemption from certain regulatory requirement. So that was the concept feature featuring encouragement of small scale industries. Now, the fourth feature is public sector reforms. So, the policy initiated a process of public sector reforms, including disinvestment, restructuring, and privatization of loss-making public sector enterprises. This was aimed at improving the efficiency, productivity, and competitiveness of the public sector. Also, while also reducing the burden of government exchequer. Also, subsequent changes to the industrial policy included further liberalization measures, such as the simplification of procedure for foreign investment, the introduction of sector-specific policies to promote industries such as IT and telecommunication, and the streamlining of regulatory framework to enhance ease of doing business. So that is the concept of features of new industrial policy and the changes. Now we will talk about the assessment of the policy and its impact. Well, the new industrial policy represented a watershed moment in India's economic history, signaling a departure from the era of state-led industrialization towards a more market-oriented approach. The policy was instrumental in unleashing the talent, energy, promoting investment, stimulating economic growth, and integrating India into the global economy. Now we'll see about some key impacts of the policy. Well, talking about the key impact, the very first impact is economic growth. Well, the policy laid the foundation for sustained economic growth by unleashing the potential of the private sector, promoting competition, and attracting foreign investment. India's GDP growth accelerated significantly in the years following the reform, averaging around 6 to 7% per annum. So that was the key impact under economic growth. Okay. Next was industrial competitiveness. Well, the dismantling of industrial licensing and reduction of bureaucratic control fostered a more competitive business environment, encouraging innovation, efficiency, and productivity in the industrial sector. Indian industries became more globally competitive, leading to increased export and greater participation in global value change. So that was about industrial competitiveness. Next impact, what we have seen was foreign investment and technology transfer. Well, liberalization of foreign investment norms attracted significant inflow of foreign capital, technology, and as well as managerial expertise, contributing to the modernization and expansion of Indian industries. FDI played a crucial role in sectors such as telecommunication, automobiles, pharmaceuticals, fueling growth and employment generation. So that was about foreign investment and technology transfers impact. Next impact was on employment generation. Well, the policy facilitated the growth of industries and entrepreneurship, leading to increased job opportunities and income generation. While the expansion of industries contributed to employment growth, especially in sectors such as IT, services, and manufacturing, challenges such as skill mismatches and labor market rigidities persisted. So that was the impact under employment generation. And the last impact was socio-economic impact. That was the most important. Well, the impact of reforms on poverty alleviation, income distribution, and social welfare were mixed. While economic growth lifted millions out of the poverty and expanded the middle class, income disparity widened up, and certain section of society were left behind as well. So the policy focus on urban centric industrialization also raised concern about regional imbalances as well as rural neglect was there. So that was the socio economic impact of new industrial policy 1991. So what are the key impacts which we need to remember under this policy? The first was the economic growth, then industrial competitiveness, then we have foreign investment and technology transfer. Next is employment generation, and the last one is socio-economic impact. These are the five impact which we need to study under this policy, right? So this was about the new industrial policy, their exchange rate, trade liberalization, salient features, as well as assessment and the impact of the policy. I hope everything is clear. If not, I'm giving a minute's time. You please go through the things in your booklets. Any doubt is there, please put your question in the chat box. We will start unit 14 in a minute. That is the structure of Indian banking. So if any doubt is there, put your question in the chat box. Please go through your So no doubts. Well, that's okay. Now we will start about our next unit, that is on monetary policy. Under this, the first unit we'll study about the structure of Indian banking. Well, this is quite important from your examination point of view. The next two topics which we going to discuss now, that is the monetary policy as well as the fiscal policy. Definitely one is going to come in examination. So, first of all, we'll talk about the structure of Indian banking. Well, the Indian banking system is structured into various tiers, comprising different types of banks catering to the diverse financial need of the economy. The key component of Indian banking system include the first one, it is scheduled commercial banks. Scheduled commercial banks. So these banks form the backbone of Indian banking system and are regulated by Reserve Bank of India. So scheduled commercial bank include public sector banks, private sector banks, foreign banks, and regional rural banks. So these are the four banks which comes under scheduled commercial bank. Also, they offer a wide range of banking services such as deposits, loans, financial products to individual businesses as well as government entities. Now, the next tier of bank is the cooperative banks. Well, the cooperative banks are financial institutions owned and operated by their members, typically comprising individuals belonging to a common socio-economic background or geographical area. Okay. Also, the cooperative banks are classified into urban cooperative banks and rural cooperative banks based on their operational areas. They serve primarily to the rural and the agriculture sectors and provide banking services similar to commercial bank. But the basic difference between these commercial bank and cooperative banks are they are being owned and operated by their members. Okay. So that is the difference. Next, the third tier of banks are development banks. Well, the development banks are a specialized financial institution established to provide long-term financial support for industrial and infrastructural development projects. So that is the development banks. Well, to name a few development banks, it could be the Industrial Development Bank of India, IDBI, the National Bank of Agriculture and Rural Development, NABARD, NABARD, and the Small Industries Development Bank of India, SIDBI, SIDBI. So these are characterized under development banks and they are specialized for financial institutions established to provide long-term financial and support for industrial as well as infrastructure development project. Got it? The third tier, that is the development bank. Now we'll talk about an overview of functions of RBI. Well, the Reserve Bank of India is the central bank of India and plays a important role in regulating and supervising the country's banking and financial system. The functions of RBI can be categorized as the first one is the monetary policy. Well, the RBI formulates and implement monetary policy to achieve price stability, promote economic growth, and maintain financial stability. So what is the concept behind monetary policy? Why it has been formulated? For these three activities: to achieve price stability, promote economic growth, and maintain financial stability. That is the basic for monetary policy formulation. Well, it uses various instruments such as open market operations, bank rate, repo rate, reverse repo rate, and cash reserve ratio, that is CRR. We will discuss about this in later in this unit only. So to regulate money supply and credit in the economy. So that is the first overview of functions of RBI, that is the monetary policy, formulation of monetary policy. Then the next function is regulation and supervision. So the RBI regulates and supervises banks and financial institutions to ensure their soundness, stability, and integrity. It issues guidelines and regulations related to capital adequacy, risk management, corporate governance, and compliance with the prudential norms. That is the second function, regulation and supervision. Next function is issuance of currency. So the RBI has the sole authority to issue currency notes and coins in India. It manages the supply of currency in circulation and ensure the availability of adequate liquidity in the banking system. Next function is management of foreign exchange. Well, the RBI manages India's foreign exchange reserves and formulate policies to regulate foreign exchange transaction, promote external trade, and maintain exchange rate stability. So that was management of foreign exchange, the fourth function. Next, the fifth function is developmental function. So the RBI plays a proactive role in promoting financial inclusion, enhancing credit delivery to priority sectors, that is agriculture, small scale industries, and microfinance, and fostering innovation and efficiency in the financial system. So these are the 5 functions, or you can say the overview of functions of RBI. What are these? A quick review. The first one is the monetary policy, then regulation and supervision, then issuance of currency, management of foreign exchange, and developmental functions. So these are the functions of RBI. I hope it is clear now. Well, next we'll talk about principal instruments of मॉनेटरी क्रेडिट पॉलिसी ऑफ द आरबीआई. ये जरा ध्यान से सुनिए सारे के सारे. देयर आर 5 इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स. दोज आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. दोज कुड कम एज योर शॉर्ट आंसर्स. तो ये तो आपको मालूम रहना ही रहना. ओके, so they might come as a abbreviation also, so you need to know the full forms and their function as well. So the RBI employs various instruments of monetary credit policy to achieve its objectives of price stability, economic growth, and financial stability. So some of the principal instruments include, the first one is a repo rate. So the repo rate is the rate at which RBI lends short-term funds to commercial bank against government securities. So what is that? RBI lends short-term fund to commercial bank. So that is the concept of repo rate. RBI issuing lending short-term funds to commercial bank. Changes in the repo rate influence the cost of borrowing from banks and consequently affect interest rate in the economy. So from where the interest rate are being derived from the repo rate. Okay. So next one is reverse repo rate. Well, the reverse repo rate is the rate at which RBI borrows fund from commercial banks. So repo rate was RBI giving funds, and reverse repo rate is RBI is borrowing funds from commercial bank, just opposite of repo rate. It serves as a tool for absorbing excess liquidity from the banking system, also managing inflationary pressures. So that was reverse repo rate. Next is CRR, that is cash reserve ratio. CRR. Cash reserve ratio is the percentage of bank deposit that commercial banks are required to maintain as reserve with the RBI. कि कितना अमाउंट, कितना डिपॉजिट कमर्शियल बैंक को रखना है to maintain as reserve in the RBI by the commercial banks. So that is known as CRR, cash reserve ratio. So by adjusting CRR, the RBI can control the amount of liquidity in the banking system and influence credit creation. Okay. Now the next one is statutory liquidity ratio, which is known as SLR, statutory liquidity ratio. Well, the SLR is the minimum percentage of net demand and time liabilities, that is NDTL. Net demand and time liabilities, NDTL, that banks are required to maintain in the form of liquid assets such as government securities, cash, and gold. Okay. So these comes under liquid assets. What are these? Government securities, cash, and gold. So changes in SLR, that is the statutory liquid ratio, impact the liquidity position of banks and their lending capacity. So which define what defines the lending capacity of bank? That is statutory liquidity ratio defines the lending capacity of the bank. That is SLR. Now the fifth instrument is open market operation, known as OMOs. Well, OMOs involve the buying and selling of government securities by the RBI in the open market to regulate liquidity condition and interest rate. Also, by conducting OMOs, the RBI can inject or withdraw liquidity from the banking system as needed. So that is the concept of OMO, that is open market operation. What does it involve? It involves buying and selling of government securities by the RBI in the open market. Okay. And what is the purpose? The purpose is to regulate liquidity condition and interest rates. Okay. So these are the five instrument of RBI. So that is the principal instrument of monetary. यही है. By the name of RBI also it could come, or by the name of monetary policy also it could come. So what are those? Repo rate, reverse repo rate, CRR, SLR, and OMOs. Clear? Now, the last topic under monetary policy is recent changes aiming at improving efficiency, competition, and effective regulation. Just a minute, please. Yeah, we were at recent changes aiming at improving efficiency, competition, and effective regulation. 1 minute, please. So this is a monetary policy. Next is fiscal policy. Then we have financial sector reforms. That's it. Okay. Well, coming to the last topic, that is recent changes. Well, in recent years, the RBI has implemented several reforms and initiatives aimed at enhancing the efficiency, competition, and effectiveness of the banking and financial systems. Now we'll talk about the key changes. Now, the first change recapitalization of public sector banks. Well, the government has initiated measures to recapitalize public sector banks. One minute. With the aim to strengthen their balance sheets, improve asset quality, and enhance lending capacity. This has been accompanied by reforms aimed at improving governance, transparency, and accountability in public sector banks. That is, recapitalization of public sector banks. Next change is asset quality review, AQR. Well, the RBI conducted an AQR to identify and address non-performing assets, that is known as NPAs, in the banking system and ensure the integrity of bank balance sheets. The AQR exercise helped banks recognize and provision for stressed assets, leading to greater transparency and risk management. So that was AQR, Asset Quality Review, AQR. Next, the third change is Prompt Corrective Action, PCA, Prompt Corrective Action Framework. So the RBI introduced PCA framework to proactively identify and address banks facing financial distress and ensure their timely resolution. So the function of PCA is to find out the banks which are facing financial distress and giving resolution for it. So under this framework, banks with weak financial indicators are subject to certain restrictions on lending and expanding until they improve their financial health. So जब तक बैंक का पोजीशन ठीक नहीं हो जाता, until that time there are certain restrictions in lending and expansion of their functions. So that is prompt corrective action, PCA. Next change is implementation of Basel third norm. Well, the RBI has implemented Basel III norms to strengthen the capital adequacy and resilience of banks, enhanced risk management practices, and align Indian banking regulations with international standards. Basel III norms requires banks to maintain higher level of capital and liquidity buffers to withstand adverse shocks and promote financial stability. So that is the fourth change, that is implementation of Basel norm 3. Fifth one is digital payment and financial inclusion. Well, the RBI has been prompting digital payments and financial inclusions to expand access to banking services, reduce cash transaction, and enhance the efficiency and inclusivity of the financial system. Measures such as the Unified Payment Interface, that is UPI, Aadhaar-enabled payment systems, and the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, that is PMJDY, have contributed to advancing financial literacy, expanding the reach of banking services, and fostering a cashless economy. So that is the changes which have been aiming to improve the efficiency, competition, and effective regulation of the monetary policy. Okay. Well, the RBI plays a central role in regulating as well as supervising the Indian banking and financial system. Through its monetary policy framework, regulatory measures, and developmental initiatives, the RBI aims to maintain price stability, promote economic growth, and ensure financial stability. and foster an inclusive and efficient financial system. Recent reforms and changes have been aimed at addressing emerging challenges, enhancing the resilience of banks, promoting competition, and advancing financial inclusion to support India's aspiration for sustainable and inclusive economic development. So that was all in all the concept of monetary policy and the structure of Indian banking. Okay, let's move on to Unit 15 quickly. Any doubts, please ask. Yes, no, anything? No doubts? Well, Sridevi? Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, Sridevi.
No doubts, ma'am. I'll
Doubts? No.
continue.
Okay, okay. So next is Unit 15. We'll discuss about the fiscal policy. You all please open your booklets, your notes provided by you, so you should have idea about what I'm explaining about. It would be easier for you to understand then. Also, it will like you will become familiar to the content of your syllabus. So while preparing for examination, कुछ भी नया नहीं रहेगा. It's like कि आपको इसका explanation मिल चुका है. Okay. So that is the reason I'm asking to open the booklets and the topic. Well, the fiscal policy. Well, the fiscal policy refers to the use of government revenue collection. What is government revenue collection method? That is taxation and expenditure. That is spending to influence the economy. It is one of the primary tools available to policymakers to achieve macroeconomic objectives such as economic growth, price stability, full employment, and income distribution. The scope of fiscal policy includes both revenue and expenditure measures undertaken by the government to stabilize the economy and promote sustainable development. Now we will talk about certain aim of fiscal policy. The first aim is economic stability. Well, fiscal policy aims to stabilize the economy by mitigating the impact of fluctuation in aggregated demand and supply. Okay. So during periods of recession or economic slowdown, expansionary fiscal measures such as increased government spending and tax cut are employed to stimulate demand and boost economic activity. Conversely, during the period of inflation or overheating, contradictory fiscal measures such as reduced government spending and tax hikes are used to curb demand and control inflationary pressures. So that is the first aim of fiscal policy, that is economic stability. So through fiscal policy, it could be achieved, the economic stability. Next one is economic growth. Well, fiscal policy plays a crucial role in fostering long-term economic growth by promoting investment, innovation, and productivity. Government is spending on infrastructure, education, healthcare, and R&D activities can enhance the proactive capacity of the economy and support sustainable growth. Additionally, tax policies that incent that is savings, investments, and entrepreneurship can stimulate private sector activities and create favorable condition for economic expansion. So that is economic growth. Next is income distribution. Now, see what is this? Well, fiscal policy is an instrument in addressing income equality and promoting social equity. Progressive taxation and targeted expenditure program such as social welfare measures, education subsidies, and healthcare initiatives aim to redistribute income and improve the welfare of disadvantaged sections of society. By ensuring more equitable access to resources and opportunities, fiscal policy contribute to inclusive growth and social cohesion. Okay, so these are the aims of fiscal policy. Next, we will discuss about the recent fiscal reforms. Okay, so the recent fiscal reforms in India have focused on enhancing fiscal sustainability, improving tax compliances, rationalizing subsidies, and promoting transparency and accountability in public finances. Now we'll see some certain reforms, key reforms you can say. The first reform was GST, that is Goods and Services Tax. So the introduction of GST in 2017 marked a significant milestone in India's tax reform agenda. GST replaced a complex system of indirect taxes levied by the central and state governments with a unified tax regime aimed at streamlining tax administration, then eliminating tax cascading, and creating a common national market. So that was the aim of GST, Goods and Services Tax. Now, the second reform was fiscal responsibility and budget management, which is known as FRBM, that is fiscal responsibility and budget management. So this act, the FRBM Act, enacted in 2003, it aimed to institutionalize fiscal discipline and promote prudent fiscal management. The act mandated the government to adhere to fiscal targets such as reducing the fiscal deficit and revenue deficit to sustainable levels over time. However, the effectiveness of the FRBM framework has been subject to debate, with concern raised about its rigid adherence to numerical targets and its impact on growth and development priorities. So that was FRBM Act. Next reform was DBT, that is Direct Benefit Transfer, DBT. So the DBT initiative seeks to improve the efficiency and the effectiveness of government subsidy programs by transferring benefits directly to the bank account of beneficiary. So by leveraging technology and Aadhaar authentication, DBT aims to reduce leakages, eliminate middlemen, and ensure that subsidy reach the intended beneficiary, that is direct benefit transfer. A lot of Indians have been benefit through this reform by fiscal policy, that is DBT. Next one is a fourth reform is rationalizing of subsidies. The government has embarked on a process of rationalizing and targeting subsidies to ensure that they reach the intended beneficiary and are fiscally sustainable. Subsidy reform have included the phasing out of fuel subsidies, the introduction of target food subsidy program such as National Food Security Act NFSA, and the implementation of subsidy reforms in sectors such as fertilizer and cooking gas. So that was rationalization of subsidies. So what are the four reforms under fiscal policy? GST, FRBM Act, that is Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management, then DBT, Direct Benefit Transfer, and rationalization of subsidies. So these are the four reforms under fiscal policy. You need to know this if you are writing an answer on fiscal policy, these four reforms. Yeah, give me a moment. Let me grab a glass of water for me. Then we will move on to tax structure and government of India. Yeah. So the next thing is tax structure of government of India. क्या है? Let's see. Well, the tax structure of government of India comprises various direct and indirect taxes levied by the central and the state government. The key components of these are number one, direct taxes. Well, direct taxes are taxes levied on income and wealth of individuals and corporation. A few example of direct tax may be income tax, corporate tax, capital gain tax, and wealth tax. Direct taxes are progressive in nature, meaning that individual with higher income pays a higher proportion from their income in taxes. So that is the concept of direct taxes. Okay. Next one is indirect taxes. Well, indirect taxes are taxes levied on the production, sale, or consumption of goods and services. Well, example could be excise duty, custom duty, and service tax. Indirect taxes are regressive in nature, meaning that they impose a greater burden on low income individuals relative to their income. Okay, so direct taxes are progressive in nature, whereas indirect taxes are regressive in nature because they put a pressure on the middle sector people or the low income individuals. Next tax is the GST. Well, GST is a comprehensive indirect tax levied on the supply of goods and services across the value chain. It subsums various central and state taxes. So, including a central excise duty, service tax, and VAT, that is value added tax, and also entry tax. So, GST aims to create a single unified tax regime promoting uh, ease of doing business and eliminate tax cascading. Okay, so that is the three taxes. You can say the tax structure of India, that is direct taxes, indirect taxes, and GST. Now we'll discuss about the pattern of expenditure. Well, the government expenditure can broadly be characterized into revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. Revenue expenditure refers to the day-to-day expenses incurred by government on salaries, pensions, subsidies, interest, and administrative expenses. Capital and expenditure, on the other hand, refers to the investment expenditure incurred by the government on creation of physical and social infrastructure, such as roads, bridges, a school, hospital, right? Also, the pattern of government expenditure reflect the allocation of resources towards various sectors and program based on policy uh, priorities and development objectives. Okay. So that is about the fiscal policy. Few other topics are there. I'll just suggest that you people please go through the topics and complete fiscal policy on your own. Also, I'll provide the notes. You can read it from there, the remaining topics. We will quickly move on to Unit 16 because we need to complete this block today itself. That is Unit 16, Financial Sector Reforms. Yeah. Well, talking about financial sector reforms, the first topic which we need to cover is need for reforms in financial sector. What is the need? Well, the financial sector plays a critical role in facilitating economic growth and mobilizing saving, allocating resources efficiently, and managing risk. However, over time, various inefficiencies, rigidities, and weaknesses may emerge in the financial system, necessitating reforms to address them. Some of the key reasons for reform in the financial sector include, let's see, the first one is enhancing efficiency. Well, reforms aim to improve the efficiency and competitiveness of the financial sector by removing regulatory barriers and promoting innovation, also fostering competition among financial institutions. A more efficient financial system can allocate capital more effectively, lower transaction cost and enhance productivity. So that is enhancing efficiency. Next reason is strengthening stability. Well, reforms seek to strengthen the stability and resilience of financial system by addressing vulnerabilities, enhancing risk management practices, and implementing prudential regulations. A stable financial system is essential for maintaining confidence, preventing systematic crisis, and safeguarding depositor funds and investor interest. So that is a strengthening stability. Next, the fourth reason is, or you can say the need for reforms is promoting inclusion. Well, reforms aim to promote financial inclusion by expanding access to financial services, particularly among undeserved and marginalized segments of the population. Access to formal banking services, credit, insurance, and investment opportunities can empower individuals, reduce poverty, and promote inclusive growth. So that is promoting inclusion, यानी कि जिनको services नहीं मिल सक रही है उन तक services को पहुंचाना. Okay. कौन सी services? Access to formal banking services, credit, insurance, and investment opportunities. So that is promoting inclusion. The fourth need reason. Now, the fourth one is aligning with global standards. Well, reform may be driven by the need to align domestic financial regulation and practices with international best practices and standard. Integration into the global financial system requires compliance with regulatory norms, transparency, and risk management standard to ensure credibility and attract foreign investment. So that is the fourth key reason, that is aligning with global standards. So what are the reasons we have studied till now, or you can say the need? That is enhancing efficiency, strengthening stability, promoting inclusion, and aligning with global standards. Now, the next topic under financial sector reform is to study Narsimham Committee on Financial Reform, which is very important under this. So, the Narsimham Committee on Financial Reform was constituted by the Government of India in 1991 under the chairmanship of M. Narsimham, former governor of RBI. So, he was a governor of RBI at that time, Mr. M. Narsimham. So, in the name of him only, this committee has been named. Also, the committee was tasked with examining the various aspects of financial system and recommending measures to strengthen and modernize it in line with the emerging economic challenges and global trends. Well, a few major recommendation of Narsimham Committee. Let's see what are these. The Narsimham Committee submitted two reports. In the first in 1991, that is Narsimham Committee 1, and second in 1998, that is Narsimham Committee 2. each containing a set of comprehensive recommendations aimed at transforming the Indian financial sector. Now we'll see the major recommendation made in Committee 1 and Committee 2. The first is banking sector reforms. The committee, 1 minute. Yeah, the committee recommended liberalization, the licensing policy for new private sector banks, allowing foreign banks to operate in India, and also strengthening prudential norms and supervision. It proposed measures to improve assets quality, strengthen capital adequacy, and enhance transparency. That is banking sector reforms. Second recommendation was India financial sector deregulation. Well, the committee advocates for the deregulation of interest rate to promote competition, efficiency, and market-driven pricing of financial products. It recommended phasing out directed credit program and reducing statutory liquidity, that is SLR, and CRR, that is cash reserve ratio, requirement to enhance the autonomy and flexibility of banks. Next recommendation was strengthening regulatory framework. Well, the committee emphasized the need of strengthening the regulatory framework governing banks and financial institutions to ensure financial stability, transparency, and accountability. Also, it proposed the establishment of specialized regulatory bodies such as SEBI and IRDAI for the insurance sector. Next, the fourth recommendation was entry of foreign banks. The committee recommended allowing the entry of foreign banks into India through subsidiaries or branches to enhance competition, promote best practices, and facilitate technology transfer. It suggested gradual liberalization of restriction on foreign ownership and expansion of foreign banks operation in India. That is entry of foreign banks. Now, the fourth major recommendation would be capital market reforms. So the committee proposed measures to deepen and strengthen capital market by introducing reforms such as dematerialization of securities, electronic trading platforms, and investor protection measures. It recommended the establishment of a comprehensive legal framework for security markets and the introduction of prudential norms for mutual funds and non-banking financial companies, which is known as NBFCs. Okay. So these are the major recommendation which was made by the committee. So what are the major ones? The banking sector reforms, financial sector deregulation, strengthening regulatory framework, entry of foreign banks, and capital market reforms. Okay. Now there are certain, the last topic is financial sector reforms towards a sound financial sector. Okay. Well, financial sector reforms aim to create sound and resilient and efficient financial system that supports sustainability, economic growth, and financial stability. Also inclusive development. Now, there are certain key areas to focus on financial sector reforms. I'll just mention the headings. You can find out the brief notes in the notes, which I'll provide you tomorrow. So these reforms, key areas include strengthening regulation and supervision, then promoting competition and innovation, also enhancing financial inclusion, then strengthening infrastructure and market architecture, And the last one is addressing systematic risk and vulnerabilities. So these are the financial sector reforms and the key areas for it to focus on financial sector reforms. So with this, we are done with our unit 16, and with this, we completes our block 3. Okay. Any doubt, please ask me. Tomorrow, we will be covering our block 4 and finishing it off in the class itself. Any doubts are there regarding any topics, anything has been left out, or you want explanation again of it, which we have discussed till now? No issues. You please go through the things. You please go through the classes. They are there on YouTube, and you can email me again and again. I'm providing my email address to you people so that you can reach me anytime. I may get late, but I will reply. So be assured. So I'm there in within your reach, and I'll give you assurance if any doubt is there. I'll try making out clear before your examination. So still there is some minutes left. I'll give you time. If any doubts are there, please put in the chat box. I'm here. Well, that was all for today's class. I hope there are no doubts with you for today's explanation. You will get the notes by tomorrow for the classes today and for tomorrow's class. After the class, I'll try sending all the notes in one email, so that would be convenient tomorrow. Okay. So that was all for today. See you all tomorrow. Please let me know the doubts so that we can discuss. I'm again saying this. So take care. Bye. Good evening.